to the Tottenham update. And first up, we are going to be talking about Destiny Udogie, because there's been a few rumours circling about Destiny in recent days. Tutto Juve have claimed that Tottenham value Destiny Udogie at £26 million.
26?
£26 million.
Is that it?
What is that all about? No way is he valued at £26 million by Spurs. However, SZY has come to our rescue, and he says, please ignore the reports regarding Destiny. He's viewed very highly by Roberto De Zerbi. There are no plans to sell him this summer.
That's what I like to hear. I think when it comes to Udogie, I think we all appreciate that when he's fully fit and when he's playing regularly and he's at his best, he's a very good left back. I still think even then, obviously he's got a lot to improve. I think defensively, he's sharp and he's strong. He's hard to beat. I think offensively, he gets to the byline very regularly. He's a force to be reckoned with his power. Does have a lot to improve in the final third. I think we can all agree. I think his crossing needs a lot of work. Probably maybe his decision making when it comes to when to pass, when to cross, all that kind of stuff definitely needs work. So he's not the perfect left back. But he obviously at this stage of his career, considering he's been here a couple of years now, I think he's done very well when he has played in a Tottenham shirt, and he's proved he's one of the better up and coming left backs in the league. But obviously the big issue is his injuries. That's obviously the thing that's consistently held him back in a Tottenham shirt. I don't think he's ever really had a season where he's played well. He's played a fair amount of games, but every season he seems to get a significant injury, and that is something that is probably, when other clubs are looking at him, that probably goes into that price tag you're talking about at 26 million. I think if you're talking about just the quality, you're probably talking about a 50, 60 million pound player there. But obviously when you factor in the injuries, that's obviously going to contribute to teams being less likely to invest heavily in him because they can't trust whether he's going to stay fit. Obviously he would have to pass medical and all that, so that would be determined. But when it comes to his fitness, that's obviously been a big worry. I think for me, I wouldn't sell him for 26 million, because I think a bit like Van de Ven this season, if he can have a season...
26 million, that's only the first instalment, mate.
I think a bit like Van de Ven this season, if he can have a season where he proves his work, proves his fitness, like Van de Ven every year was saying, oh, you can't stay fit, and then this season, I don't think he had one injury, did he?
He had one small one, for 1 or 2 games, but that's it.
Yeah, he pretty much played every game, so he's shown that in the right conditions or whatever changes they made, obviously at the back end of... Ange's second season, they did this whole thing with his running style and they changed a few things for him. So they adjusted what they've identified was going wrong, and they've been able to keep him fit. So if they can do that with Udogie, I think it's worth keeping him around. I wouldn't sell him on the cheap, and then if he goes somewhere else and improves his fitness, all of a sudden his value probably doubles or triples overnight. So 26 million is a very, very low fee. However, there is a conversation to be had whether we'll have to, I don't know what the conversations are like within the medical team. Is there a feeling that he is just going to be an injury-prone player, that he's not going to get over these injuries? If they know something that we don't, then I would consider selling him. But right now, with all the information I have, I want to hold on to him.
Yeah, I think you need to give it at least another year at the very minimum, because I think he's got top quality traits, and, physically, when he is fit, he looks like a beast on that football pitch. So I'd love to keep him around. I really believe in his qualities. But it's true, like, the injuries have held him back. Like, in terms of before he joined Spurs, he didn't have those injury problems. He played 35 and 33 games for the 2 seasons at Udinese. First season at Spurs, 28. Second season, 25. Third season, 20. So it's actually going down every single year. So we need to see injury-free season, or at least him getting up to 30-plus games in a season.
Well, which is interesting because Robertson's now here. So on the flip side, it's going to ease the burden on him, because the truth is he's never had a real alternative, has he? Ever since he's been in the club, we've been shoving Jed Spence there. But every time Udogie's fit, he gets the shirt. And Spence has never preferred to Udogie when Udogie's fit. But now he's got proper competition. So it should ease the burden on him, but also he's got to fight for his place now. Whereas before, it's like if you're fit, you're playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it should ease those worries. Hopefully he won't get injured every time he does play. It seems like that's what happens every time he plays. He's back for a 3 or 4 games, and then he gets injured. So hopefully he can turn over a new leaf. The medical team can work with him and get him playing for the majority of next season, because I think we can all agree there's a very good player in there if we can keep him on the pitch. Next up, let's talk about Van Hecke. All right, Van Hecke. A lot to be said about Van Hecke. We brought you the news last night that Spurs potentially going in for that third bid, and this has been reaffirmed here by Ben Jacobs, saying that Tottenham do intend to place a third bid for Jan Paul van Hecke. There is optimism that a deal can be agreed. Fabrizio Romano says that negotiations continue between Spurs and Brighton for Van Hecke. Talks planned again this week. Van Hecke wants to move. De Zerbi wants him. Club-to-club talks still on after Brighton have rejected 2 proposals. Alistair Gold says that Tottenham board sees Van Hecke as a direct support for head coach Roberto De Zerbi, especially since he is a player that he knows very well and trusts his abilities. Van Hecke is considered a very important target for De Zerbi, as Van Hecke is capable of quickly adapting to his style. Brighton will not agree to sell unless a large sum, despite only 1 year remaining on his contract. The deal will be a true test to Tottenham willingness to support Roberto De Zerbi in this transfer market. And I don't know if you saw as well, Mickey van der Ven was in a press conference yesterday for the Netherlands, and he was actually asked about Van Hecke, and he said, on Van Hecke, he says, I did talk to Jan Paul about Tottenham for a bit. I told him it's a good move for him. It's a good step for him. So Agent Mickey doing the bits.
On.
You know, we had Agent Javi working on Savinio. Now we got Agent Mickey working on Van Hecke.
And if other rumours to be believed, there could be a real Dutch invasion coming into Tottenham. So I think Jan's looking at that situation thinking, if I can get all my Dutch friends in there, we're going to ball together.
Jan, man. I wish it was Jan.
Jan Paul.
Jan Paul. I thought you were talking about Jan Vertonghen.
No, Jan Paul van Hecke. So, yeah, I think he's looking at that situation thinking, if I can get all these players, I know them very well, we can all ball together, it's going to be a marvellous time, which is maybe why all these talks about him saying, it's only Tottenham, you know, this is the team I want to join. Maybe he looks at that thinking, I can really find a home there. And also, I think it's underestimated the kind of feeling for some. Obviously, lots of players do want to just join the best team, but also some players look at a situation and think, I can help bring that team back up. We can go there with a mission and build something from the ground up together, rather than just going into something that's already successful, like create something successful of your own. There are some players who like the challenge, who rise to that challenge. Maybe Jan's one of those. If it is true that there's talks with or potential interest from other clubs that say, that sounds like he only wants Tottenham. Lovely to hear just a player who wants to be here, who's pushing for a move to come to Tottenham, who probably does have other offers on the table, you'd imagine, and yet he's looked at the Tottenham project and is like, that's what I want to be part of. That is super exciting, and it is exciting as well that this definitely is a signing that clearly is coming from De Zerbi. He's clearly identified Van Hecke as somebody who he's managed, who played under him, who he knows very well. He's clearly identified him as someone who he really believes can make a big difference for us and can really slot into the back line, hit the ground running. He's somebody who's not going to hopefully take too long to get up to speed with what De Zerbi wants from him. So I think that's hopefully some intent from the club to show him, look, we trust you, we trust your eye for talent, we trust your opinion, and if you're saying he's your defender, we're going to go for him. Because maybe in other scenarios, maybe we would have overrid De Zerbi and gone with Vuskovic, or maybe even said to De Zerbi, look, they're asking for too much money, and with 1 year left in his deal, we're not going to pay that amount. And it sounds like we're going to get as close to that as possible, maybe even meet the valuation. So we're prepared to pay the price for him. So obviously the deal's not done yet, so I can't give him too much praise, but that seems to be an exciting development from that point of view as well. So for me, it's a really exciting deal. I think he's a really talented defender. His on-the-ball ability is top-notch. It's really, really great. It's yes, we are probably going to lose Romero off the back of it, who I think is a better defender. But to replace him with someone like Van Hecke, who's got Prem experience, who's been getting better and better, who knows De Zerbi ball, and as well is very good playing at the back, which is something we will be losing with Romero. That's really encouraging for me.
Yeah, I think what's encouraging for me, that why I think this deal's going to get done, is because apparently he's stated that he only wants Tottenham Hotspur, and he's going to pull out on any other, or won't listen to any other clubs that do come in. That puts massive pressure on Brighton, because they know they need to sell this summer with him going in the last year of his contract, because they're not going to get a fee like this, in January. And obviously next summer it's going to be completely free if he refuses to sign a contract. So Van Hecke has actually put the ball firmly in Brighton's court now, because they are under pressure to sell. So I think look, they're playing hardball right now, but I think the next bid is going to be accepted. I really believe that.
Yeah, I mean, if the rumours are true that we're already near like 45 plus 5, I mean, at that point you're splitting hairs. Yeah, at that point it looks like it's going to be agreed, and unless something drastic happens. That seems way too close for it to break down at this point. But we haven't got any magical words from Romano. We haven't got any bombers from Ornstein. Ornstein's been very quiet on this deal, hasn't he? Or no, did he say so? He did say something initially, did he? He actually broke it. Yeah, he broke it, but he hasn't said anything since. But from all the other reports, it seems to be heading in the right direction. And as you say, the fact that he wants to come, he's saying, I only want Tottenham. That is, it's great. It's great to hear. It's great to hear, which when you consider the fact that we finished 17th twice, and you're thinking, I would have thought someone like Van Hecke will look at us and be like, they're a clown show, they're a mess, I ain't touching that with a barge pole, especially if the truth is that if Liverpool are interested, you know, they've just lost Konate, he could probably see himself starting for them, and he's got Van Dijk next to him who starts for a national team. You would think that would be a brilliant opportunity for him to go there. If he's looked at that and think, actually, I prefer to go to Tottenham, that just goes to show that we've got more pull even than people give us credit for.
Yeah, you know, at the end of this season, everyone's saying, oh, Spurs aren't a big six club anymore. Spurs aren't this. Spurs aren't that. Well, we're about to take Van Hecke, who only wants to join Tottenham when Brighton finished in the European spot this year. We've got Senesi through the door on a free, who Bournemouth finished in 6th. You know what I mean? These clubs who are finishing in Europe, we're still able to take their best kind of players.
Yeah, which is, I've always said, when it comes to that, we're always going to be a bigger club than those guys. So if we can throw our financial weight around a bit, use that advantage, we can attract players from those clubs, even if we are finishing below them. Because these players aren't stupid. They know if Tottenham get to a stage where they're competing again and they're investing in the right ways. I know it seems like a long way away right now, and I know we've been a mess, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's easier said than done. But these players also know if Tottenham get it right, we can be challenging right up there like we have before. Whereas Brighton and Bournemouth, it's a lot harder for them to continually get it right constantly, to be at the very top of their ability, just to maybe scrape into the lower European spots. That seems to be a ceiling for them. So I think these players know that. And it raises their profile as well.
Absolutely. And he's also said, you know, World Cup. He wants it done before the World Cup. World Cup starts this Thursday. Then the first Netherlands game is on Sunday. So it's got to happen soon. It's got to happen soon if he wants it done before the World Cup.
Also, people might have noticed yesterday that said age 25, and now it says age 26, because today is Van Hecke's birthday. So
happy birthday.
Big happy birthday to Jan Paul, and let's hope you get a nice birthday present with a nice juicy move.
It's always a good sign when you're signing Geminis.
Exactly. Come on, big up the Geminis.
Next up, let's talk about Savinio. A few developments on him today. Alistair Gold saying De Zerbi is eager to sign Savinio and the club is working to finalise the deal in the coming weeks so the player can join from the start of pre-season. And Simon Jones says that Tottenham are now advancing in talks over a deal worth £60 million for Man City Savinio. Further signings are planned as discussions continue with other targets. So hopefully there's some unnamed targets in there. But it looks as though Spurs are very much advancing on the Savinio front as well. This is one that David Ornstein has been very quiet on. You know, he's not mentioned him once. Fabrizio Romano he's actually just quote tweeted his old tweet with a little eyes emoji and a Brazilian soon emoji. So maybe this one will be the here we go before Van Hecke. Or I have been saying, you know, since last week, tomorrow's the day, tomorrow's the day, tomorrow's the day. But I think today or tomorrow could actually be there.
It could actually be there. We'll see. Usually when he tweets that, Romano, it's usually followed by some sort of update in the next hour or so. We'll see what exactly it's going to be from him. So we await more Romano updates. But for me, I'm super excited about Savinio joining the club. We need some more quality in the wide areas. I think Savinio represents that. I think we're getting him at a time where it's an opportunity. Yes, it's a bit of an opportunity because he hasn't had the best of times at Man City for whatever reason, and we're getting him where his stock is maybe low. Look, obviously, if he was at Man City smashing it right now, he wouldn't be available and he wouldn't be wanting to come to us, would he? So we are getting a player who is a bit off form at the moment, and there's a reason why he's been made available for Man City. We can't get away from that. But he's not the first player to have not made the grade at Man City and moved on elsewhere and done very well. You know, you look at the likes of Palmer, look at the likes of Morgan Rogers. You know, there's a few players that have, you know, failed to kind of make the first team or really make the impact at Man City they wanted, and have gone on to do stellar stuff. And a lot of players actually who go from Man City end up leaving and end up doing some really good stuff at other clubs. So I think Savinho could very well be in that camp. I'm super excited about him joining if he does. And I think him and Kudus on the wings, I think they're going to cause havoc. I really do. And I think it's going to be very, very difficult for teams to handle both of those players. And I think some more dribbling ability isn't going to go amiss. There's a report, as you say, Simon Jones saying 60 million. That is a bit higher than I would have liked. I think the reports of 45 to 50, which was before, is a bit more my style. I think when it comes to the fee, I think paying for him, I think 60 is definitely a big overpayment. I would say. I think that's probably a bit too much. I don't know if I'd pay 60, but if they're certain about him, I don't really care about the money. But I think for me, I would value him around 45 to 50, something like that. Ballpark.
Yeah, I think so. With the output that he's had over the last couple of years, definitely, I think that's represents more value for the player. But, you know, it doesn't matter what I think of the player. It doesn't matter what you guys think out there. It matters what Roberto De Zerbi thinks and how he thinks he can fit him in. And if he has earmarked him as the player that could potentially change our fortunes in the front line, then go get him done. Go get it done. Like, if it's 15 million over what he's actually worth, doesn't make too much of a difference at the end of the day. We need players through the door, so go get the players.
Exactly.
What's Himothy saying on Savinho?
It's not about Savinho. He's saying what our plans are for after Savinho. He's saying Harry Wilson is being considered. Everton have also had a look, unsure if he's keen, could stay at Fulham. If he's more of an opportunistic rather than strategic signing, if it does come into fruition, also depends on fitness levels of Kulu and Kudus. Essentially, Wilson would be an opportunity rather than someone who the club has strategically planned for.
Yeah, I saw this post from Windy COYS as well on X saying that, you know, don't be surprised if we bring in Harry Wilson. And I was thinking about it with Harry Wilson, like, he'll obviously be a backup for Mohamed Kudus, but he's a backup that knows where the goal is, and he's a backup with, you know, supreme ability in that left foot of his. Is it left footed or right? Yeah,
left foot.
Left footed. So I think we could do a lot worse as like a backup option, like a rotation option.
Obviously, he could also play number 10, can play off the right, which obviously fills in for Decky while we're kind of getting him up to speed right now. Just doesn't. I know he's had a stellar season. I think off the back of that, a lot of people obviously have a recency bias and think this guy is, you know, he's quality. I don't think he's a bad player, don't get me wrong. I just think he's kind of a middle of the road kind of player. I think he had a massive overperformance for a lot of the season, and I think he I don't think last season represented, obviously I think it represented him at his very, very best, but that was, for me, an outlier season. I think he's probably more of a 10-goal contribution a season kind of player rather than someone who got, nearly 20 last season, which was fantastic for him. And he had a great season, but I think it was also inflated by what was a great purple patch in the middle way through the season.
I don't disagree, but in terms of like a filler player for a year or two, I don't think he'll ever let you down. I think he's a player that always works really hard. And in terms of output, he's proven in the last 2 years that he can, you know, get more output than the majority of our wingers. You know, so
he's not really a winger. I wouldn't sign him to play on the wing. I'd sign him to be a number 10. I don't think he's a winger that De Zerbi wants.
I think he's one of these players where if you were to sign him, he wouldn't start for us that much unless we got injuries. And then he's a decent player to come in if we got injuries, and he's a player that can come on in the last 20 minutes of game and impact things.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be a pretty good super sub late in games because he can provide that little moment out of nowhere, which he did a lot last season. And maybe it's a case where he's got momentum behind him, and if he comes into the season off the back of what was a great season last season, full of confidence to keep trying things like he's doing into an attacking system like Spurs, maybe this could be a real surprise. Like, he could surprise a lot, not surprise people because everyone knows his quality, but maybe he can actually continue his trajectory, let's say, from last season, which would be phenomenal. If we get that on, what was he on, a free, or was he 1 year left? Either way.
He's a free.
He's a free. So if we get that kind of ability on a free, it's hard to say no to that. I just don't know if he's got that in his locker consistently like he showed last season. But
yeah. Look, he's not a signing that excites me, but I think he can have a value in the squad. That's all I'm saying. All right, next up, let's talk about Crysencio Summerville. There's been some conflicting reports on Summerville today. First of all, our good friend Juice Blachhoff of Football International, who's been bang on the money with the Van Hecke stuff, he says Summerville to Tottenham is off. But Alex Crook has said that Tottenham are expected to return to West Ham winger Summerville after bidding for him back in January. So which one are we believing here?
Juiced, because I think is Summerville on the squad for the Dutch team?
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah, I think Juice is probably closer to the situation. Maybe he's hearing things at the moment about him. So considering that we're focusing on Savinio right now, I don't think we're going to jump at the chance of getting Summerville through the door unless we're really certain about him, and I don't think we are. Summerville seems to me like a signing that is down the list that maybe we'll go for if other things don't work out. I think we've got things that we're going to go for before Summerville. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do go back in for him later down the line. I just don't think it's going to be right now. I think right now we've got other targets after Savinio, and I don't think Summerville's high on our priority list. That's what I reckon.
I hope you're right. And last but not least, do you guys remember a player that we used to have called Alejo Veliz? Still on the Tottenham books. Quite amazingly so.
I swear we've sold him like 20 times.
Apparently now he has completed his move to Bahia, pending an official announcement. He leaves for €9 million, €1 million add-ons, and a 20% sell-on clause. So, I mean, he started really well at Rosario Central, and I think it kind of like petered out for him. But decent money for what he is.
Still a loss, but yeah. I think it's more than about time that he obviously left this football club. We were never going to give him another opportunity, unfortunately. It's a shame how it's all worked out for him, but I think he just wasn't a good enough player to be playing in the Premier League. I think that's the reality at the end of the day. So I wish him all the best. And yeah, I think 8 million, you've got to take that right now, given how low his stock is, probably.
Yeah. All right, so that is your Tottenham update for today. Obviously, we'll keep you updated as and when anything does drop regarding Spurs transfers.